I like it a lot. Well, in case you haven't noticed, I went and seen Dumb and Dumber 2 a couple of days ago with my friend Eddie, and I meant to do this as a co-review, but unfortunately, I had some things that came up, and he wasn't able to make it, so we weren't able to do the co-host review this time. But I figure since this is the first weekend that Dumb and Dumber 2 has come out, I figure I'd give my thoughts on it and how I feel about it. And before I go into this, I just want to say that I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of the original film. Growing up from the 90s, well, I was born in the early 90s, but you know what I mean. Growing up with that movie was just so much of a huge impact for me. That's one of my favorite comedies of all time, the first Dumb and Dumber. It was a small little movie that got the attention of Jim Carrey from his breakthrough role, and it also turned some more mainstream attention to Jeff Daniels, who before wasn't really doing much comedy work. He was mainly just doing a lot of drama work and all that. And those two, for that film together, they had so much chemistry, and it was unexpected. Nobody expected a film like that to come out where it it was that kind of dumb humor that we know nowadays that a lot of people have tried to copy and have not been able to surpass. And it was the first movie by the Fairley brothers, and I thought they were making great classics after that too. But yeah, Dumb and Dumber was one of my favorite movies. It still holds this day as one of my favorite all time Jim Carrey movies and one of my favorite road movies growing up. And it was such a huge impact. Even kids today who weren't even who like my age, probably like who were probably like around their early teens or probably like early teenage years or even less than that. This is a movie that appeals to everybody, and I'm glad. I'm glad that it's become a great classic for its own unique turn. And yeah, it did fare well with critics, but everybody, it's like that movie has become an icon. It people quote it this day. They look at it in advertisements. They can look at it in other things that make fun of it. It's just an all around just wonderful movie. And then 10 years later, we had that horrible prequel when Harry Met Lloyd, and I didn't see that in the theater, but I remember when I watched that on cable one time, I was just like, this movie is just no. For making a prequel to Dumb and Dumber, I didn't really need to see Harry and Lloyd first meet when they were teenagers. And I think the only funniest part of if some people don't kind of agree on, is the part where Bob Saget from Full House goes into a bathroom and he says, "He shit everywhere. My house is full of shit." That was the only funny part of the movie that I liked. But the rest of it was horrible. Granted, they did get two guys who look like Jeff Daniels. Well, more so Jim Carrey. They got two guys who kind of look like Harry and Lloyd, but it just it was just really really bad. I as far as that was began in just a. Well, I'll get to Dumb and Dumber too, but in a minute. But I just want to say, for those of you who don't remember, Dumb and Dumber was one of the first movies that Jim Carrey had starred in, and it was also, ironically enough, it was one of the few sequels that he didn't do, along with The Mask, uh, Ace Ventura, which I know he did the second, but he didn't do the third one, which was really bad. And he also didn't do Evan Almighty. And there's always that thing where if you don't make a sequel with Jim Carrey, it's never as good. And case in point, Dumb and Dumber When Harry Met Lloyd was one of those cases. It began a string of sequels that didn't have its original lead actor and brought in completely different writers and directors that just done something completely different. And it was a complete misstep. And it wasn't even a great concept to begin with that film. You know, but yeah, Dumb and Dumber is to me one of my all time favorite comedies growing up, and to this day I still get a kick out of it. I love the soundtrack to it as well. Hearing that music from the '90s really brings tears to my eyes because of how heartwarming it is. And just those two together, they have such fantastic chemistry, Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, and it's just great seeing Harry and Lloyd go on this long journey, and they're completely oblivious to everything that's going around. because they have the IQ of like 8, and it's like, and when something happens, they're dumb. That's the whole point. But yeah, I had from when I first heard about Dumb and Dumber 2 coming out, I got really, really excited for it because after a long time ago when I first seen Dumb and Dumber when Harry Met Lloyd, I never thought to myself they would ever make another sequel because for a long time Jim Carrey did not want to do sequels because he felt like there were scripts that people came up to him for that he just had no interest. He felt like he didn't want to repeat the same character again that he already played. And that's pretty much how he did after Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. He was like, well, I don't really want to repeat the same character. I want to try other things. So he did for a while. And granted, he did have some movies that were still good after a while, like Me, Myself, and Irene. Uh, I didn't mind Fun with Jig and Jane. I thought that was funny. And probably, I think his last good movie that I seen him in, that as far as the solo films, was I Love You, Philip Morris, where he basically played kind of a more serious role, which is what he did in some other movies. And I really love Jim Carrey. He's one of my favorite actors, and I like to see actors do that to themselves. They like to embrace into other roles that they're not really conspired to take. They're not really used to drama roles. It's ironic because Jeff Daniels did that too. He started out doing a lot of drama work, and he occasionally did some other comedy work too, like in kind of comedy, like in Pleasantville, uh, RV. You also had him in movies like Arachnophobia. He's such a committed actor. He likes to do a lot of things that not a lot of actors can do. And from hearing upon this movie, I was really, really, really shocked to hear about that. I was shocked to hear that they're finally going to do another Dumb and Dumber, 20 years after the original. That's a rare ever occasion that's ever happened. Sure, we've had movies that have brought back that as far as sequels do that. You had Indiana Jones, Temple of Crystal Skull, Live Free or Die Hard. What else? You also have Rocky. There's comes that time where occasionally you do make a sequel and it does tend to be good and still holds up. But then you got other ones where it's just like, did you really have to wait 20 years to make another one? Look, I haven't seen Crystal Skull, but I heard that from fans' perspective that it's the worst one. So I can completely understand everyone's opinion on that film. But then again, you also have movies like The Muppets. Well, not necessarily a sequel, but they like to give you that nostalgic feel to it. And this, to me, is what that movie is. Dumb and Dumber 2 is a love letter to the original film, but also it's a love letter to like other sequels that try to capture the spirit of the original better too. And after hearing the movie was coming out, I did have really low expectations going into the sequel because from the trailers I seen, there were some couple funny parts that they had, but I wasn't really catching some of it because it seemed like they were doing too much kiddie humor. And look, I know I'm not trying to offend anyone out there. I'm not trying to say anything rude or condescending, but it seems like the way that the trailer was making it feel like it was like they were trying to make Harry and Lloyd seem slow, like actually mentally slow. And I know that's the point, there's meant to be dumb, but from the trailers it makes it seem like they've gone completely Looney Tune, like lobotomized. And to me that wasn't Harry and Lloyd. Harry and Lloyd in the original film was, yeah, they were dumb, but they still had some semblance of like reality, so to speak, to them. And lo and behold, I'll admit this movie got me, and you're going to find out why in a minute. This film has actually captured my eyes and showed me how much I care for these two guys. Watching this film in the theater with a large crowd and with my friend Eddie, I was smiling throughout this entire film. It's one of those rare sequels that has done its job by paying tribute to the original, but also respecting it too. It doesn't insult any of its fans. It tries to create its own unique audience, but also paying respect to its fans as well by giving us that classic Dumb and Dumber feel to it, and also trying to bring in a new audience to it as well. And I'll admit, it did a good job do that. I actually like this film. I don't like it as much as the original movie, don't get me wrong, but I do like it for its own unique take on the Dumb and Dumber series. It does what it needs to do. It's 20 years later, and Lloyd Christmas has been in a mental institution, and then Harry comes to visit him, and well, you've seen the trailer. He pretty much fakes it the entire time just to pull a joke on Harry, and then the opening scene they pull the catheter out, and it goes a little longer, but I'm not going to spoil what happens. But it's a really hilarious scene. And then as we find out, as it cuts forward, that Harry gets a postcard from Freda Felcher, who, if you remember from the first film, was Harry's girlfriend, who Lloyd also had a giggling and mentioned that he was a French tickler. But yeah, he gets a postcard from Freda Felcher, and he discovers that she had a daughter, and that she was pregnant. So they go visit Freda Felcher, and she tells him that that she had her daughter that she gave up for adoption. And so they go on this journey to help find out where she's at. And also there's a kidney that Harry needs because while Lloyd was in the mental institution, Harry found out that he was having a huge medical problem with his kidneys. So they go on a journey to go help see if his long lost daughter from Harry can supply a kidney. And it really does capture that road feel to that movie, like the original film, where it's two guys who all they have really is themselves. They have each other, a good friendship. They go on this journey together, and they shenanigans happen again. And if you break it down, yeah, the plot does kind of seem more like the first film again, in terms of where instead of carrying a briefcase, how do I explain? They end up at this house where the girl's parents are, like Harry's daughter's foster parents are, and they discovered that they need to take this box that her foster parent has, that's supposed to be like a great invention that's worth a lot of money. So I take the box with them, and then there's another guy who goes with them, and well, it's much like in the original film. You remember when they pick up the other guy and he tries to kill him? It's pretty much like how this plot goes. So it's not really original, so to speak, as far as plotting, but the main thing that holds this film together is still the chemistry between Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. These guys still really have it together. Seeing them go off on each other and seeing the banter they have back and forth, it's just so fun to watch. And there were a lot of moments in this film where I was cracking up. I was still joking for the shit they get into. Like there's a part. Well, I'm not gonna spoil the jokes in the film, but there's a part where they go to this fountain that's falling down, and it happens to be in a toxic waste area. And then the next scene, they're glowing in the dark, and when they're driving, and it's just fucking hilarious. And then there's another part where they're riding on the bus, and they're actually riding their bicycle on the bus. And I thought they were going to put this in the movie, but it was only in the trailer. It shows a part where they're riding on the bike, and Harry's like, "Can you go faster?" He's like, and then Lloyd's like, "Harry, I'm pedaling as fast as I can." And then they get off, and the bus driver's like, "Say, hey, what are you gonna do about these bikes?" And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, we just found that on the side of the road." Yeah, somebody just left it there, so we took it. It's just these guys just seem like they had such fun together. It was fun seeing them playing those same respected roles again after 20 years. And hey, they even brought back the original directors from the first film as well. The Farrelly brothers, and I'm glad they did, because I couldn't see anyone else direct the film besides them two guys. They really hold that trademark that they have for all those films together. Now, I will admit, this film does have some flaws to it. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the jokes do seem a little kiddie-ish, at times. Like, you'll have jokes that tend to be more like for smaller children, so to speak. Like, there's a part where they're trying to make fart jokes for this one dude, and with the guy they're going with, and they're playing like like one person who gets a fart gets a point or whatever. And then there's another part where Lloyd is doing that thing with his nose. He's like, and then Harry's like, easy, and he goes, there's some gross out humor in this film that I think was more toward for kids in some places, but that was like here and there. That didn't really bother me too much. I mean, yeah, it was kind of a little cringe-inducing in some parts, but they at least still kept like well, not really vulgar, but like the crude uh, adult humor, so to speak, like they had with the first film. Like there's a scene where they have a dream sequence where Lloyd goes to pick up his Harry's daughter from the prom and takes her to prom, and then he dresses up in like this superhero outfit, and then lasers shoot out. It's hilarious, and I could go on more, but I don't want to spoil the film for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But overall, I really I really do really like this film. As far as sequels go, it's one of the better ones they made for after a long time. Did it take a long time to make? Yeah. I guess they could have made it, back when Good Dumb and Dumber was hot on the spot. But I am glad to hear that since the movie has come out, that it's actually doing pretty good at the box office. And I'm glad. It's a welcome return for both Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey to like their signature characters, but also to get back into the comedy that they're best at. And I hope that it does well because I would love to see those guys again because I grew up with them and that nostalgic in me still holds the movie together. Now, even if for its own film, I could say that this film will reach its own audience. It'll have its own fan base that grows together. You'll have the original fans who grow a part of it, well, some fans, and then you'll have others who weren't fans of the original who maybe not necessarily get into the film, and that's fine. If you didn't like the first film, you're probably not gonna like this one. But if you are a fan, or if you didn't see the first one, you might go into this film with the kind of mindset you had with the first one again, and it'll probably over time it'll become its own kind of cult classic. And that's what Dumb and Dumber is. It appeals to everybody. They don't make movies like this that much anymore. And also another thing I do love about too is the soundtrack, because there were some songs that I honestly thought I didn't think they were gonna put in here. Like you'd have a couple of tracks that are from the original movie, and they're actually here as like as little uh as little Easter eggs you see with some parts. And I'm not gonna spoil it, but you kind of know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this movie it was such a joy to watch. Yeah, like I said, I like the film, and I wouldn't say it's better than the first one, but if you look at that prequel and watch this film and say that prequel is better, then you probably didn't watch the same movie I did. I really do hope that for those who like the original film, they'll like this one as well. If you didn't, that's fine. My friend Eddie, he didn't like it as much like as I did because he pretty much said he didn't really find the humor to be all that good because they kept mixing it up with the kiddie kind of humor and the adult humor. It wasn't blending well, and he also had issues with the plot. And he thought that it was just kind of boring. And that's fine. Everyone has their own opinion. And we're entitled to that. But yeah, I do hope that everyone can at least go give it a watch because, like I said, nostalgia still makes I know nostalgia is kind of a big hard thing to see with a lot of movies that I watch, but because it's so grown on me over the years with that film, I can't get mad at this film. You know, from my memories I have with the first film that still grow on me, it keeps me going with liking this film even more. But if taking my nostalgia out aside, I still like the film for what it is. It's a good road comedy, and it's also a good movie. It's a good movie about friendship too, and that's one of the main things about these films. It's a friendship between two guys who are not the smartest guys in the world, but they do have each other, and they embark on a journey that, hey, at the end of the day, shit happens, but at least they have themselves. And that's one of the main reasons why I love both. Well, that I enjoy both of these movies. So yeah, that's really all I got. I don't want to talk more about the film because I really did I really had a great time seeing the film in the theater. But at the same time, you know, I hope that everyone gets a chance to go see it during the weekend while it's still out. And my next review will probably be it'll be Hunger Games Mockingjay Part One. But before I see that, I gotta get my girlfriend to watch the first two movies, the Hunger Games and uh, Catching Fire, before I see Part One. So my next review will be on that one. So yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of the weekend, and go check out Dumb and Dumber 2, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Later.